Welcome to Picture the Professor, the sports betting show hosted by a real statistics professor. This is college basketball for Tuesday, November 26th. I'm here with Jake. We had a solid weekend in college basketball. Did not do any top plays. They didn't go great, but also was a very small sample size. But the all plays there kind of getting us going here in the right direction from this weekend. I say that heading into we're at Monday night now, recording here for Tuesday. And Monday, I think we've already lost 3 games by 1 bucket. So luck not on our side on Monday. We talked about this, though. Cousin Jerry and I did on the college football show. Our strength is playing a larger sample size, not every game. God, no, that would be insane. But playing a big enough sample size such that the luck balances out. It doesn't balance out every day. And Monday is not looking like it's balancing out well for us. But in the long run, we know it should. Jake, sometimes I hate this sport. I will let you have the floor now.
Look, it's coming to the best week of the early first half of the year, right? We've got feast week with all the tournaments over here, seeing absolutely fantastic games with Memphis and UConn, and with our opinions on the coaches, if we would have said one coach costed their team the game, we're talking about Memphis and UConn, it would have been all money on Penny, and it was it was not. Now Dan Hurley just losing his mind in overtime game was uncharacteristic of him to me.
Yeah,
normally
I would have said
normally he's a fiery coach, but normally he's smarter about when to be fiery.
Yeah, I would have not even been able to set the odds that I was just off the board. If you made me set the odds, I would have put that at like, minus 10,000 on Penny and plus 10,000 on Hurley. And we would have taken a bloodbath there probably on that one. We have some, like you said, though, we do have some great quality basketball this week. All these tournaments, so many of them in fun locations, a lot of neutral site games. Right now, we don't even have lines for half these games. We don't have lines for any of the games in Maui. We will discuss Kansas and Duke later on in the show. We do not have an official pick on it, but we will discuss that game. We do have official picks for 3 of the games. And folks, of course, there is so much more on Dub Club with regards to all these games. If we don't have picks on them now, which right now it's a very blank sheet because of all the games, all the teams playing today. So we don't have lines for them yet. But in the morning, we will be updating that with a ton of picks on all these great games. If you want all that, Dub Club is the place to be. The Honor Roll All Access package gives you everything I got. Check the link in the show description. You get half off your first month. Some quick reminders before we get to it, though. This is a player-based model, so ratings reflect the current roster. Again, right now, that is not as big of a deal as it will become later in the season. Average rate's 100, so when you see those on the screen, higher implies more points. Offenses want to be higher, defense is lower. We are projecting an average game. We talk about it all the time. One game is unknown in college basketball. We cannot say that enough. You talked about it already with the Memphis UConn situation. One game, anything can happen. The strength is not in one game. We are not fortune tellers. The strength is in the long run with hundreds of picks going, and we will win more when we win than we lose when we lose. It's just a one game. We don't know. So we're only giving you 3 games here, mainly because we don't have the time and ability to spend 4 hours discussing every single game and what we like on every single game. But in the long run here, we do have the math on our side, which leads us to anything's good bet at the right price, the right number, right? It's not about picking quote unquote winners, because any one thing can happen and make a winner or a loser or not. So that's why we focus on the long run. What should the price be? What makes for a good price? What makes for a good number? We will discuss that here today in our 3 picks, which will come out to be all 3 of these plays that we have on show will be A grades, all picks at the model loves. Again, we will discuss Duke and Kansas at the end of the show, what your thoughts are in that game, and a game that we think is priced pretty well. The model thinks is priced pretty well, but I'll ask you for your take on it. But until we get to that, some great games to get to. Before that, leading off at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Oregon against Texas A&M neutral site game. The model says the Aggies win by an average of 6 points. We're going to lay the 3. With the Aggies. The model thinks that A&M's the better team, led by a really good defense, which is kind of the trademark of what they've been known for. A game that should be fairly slow paced, not expecting a ton of points. A lot of these better schools, these top programs get together, and we're thinking the total should be in the 150s, maybe even the 160s for a lot of these, especially these neutral site games. The rims get a little softer, it seems like, especially if you're out there in Maui. Take note, people. This game, not expecting a lot of points. The books aren't, we aren't, but we are expecting A&M to be more likely to win by 3 than less likely. Jake, what's your take?
Yeah, I love Texas A&M. I had them on the first show we did with UCF that didn't pan out, but since then their offense has really kicked into gear. I think that was just a fluky game, putting up 61, because since then everything's been above 70, and I mean, two of those games were, or Southern was a blowout at 71, and they just didn't quit trying. And Ohio State, who's had a better defense this year uh, than people expected, they still got almost 80 there. I think their offense is a lot better than people are giving them credit for. I mean, this the Phillips kid they brought in, he's very, very good, playing out of his mind. We know about Wade Taylor. They are just outstanding. And I'm not a fan of this Oregon team. I like Dana Altman. He normally struggles in the non-conference. He gets it together in the conference. Not sure how that's going to work out for him this year because it's new conference, so I don't know exactly how that works.
A lot of travel.
All the old game tape doesn't work as well. You don't have it. I mean, they've done better than I've thought this year, but this same team, Portland, took them to overtime. They barely beat Oregon State on the road. Like, they're just not that good of a team. I think the numbers are a little inflated by the competition they've played so far. Like with their turnover percentage and shooting percentages and stuff, I think they're getting open looks that they just will not get against this Texas A&M defense. I think Texas A&M has a good chance of winning this by double digits.
We had Oregon State in that game against Oregon as an A-grade play, and was really never in doubt the fact that Oregon State was able to keep that so close and stay with them. And I think kind of maybe to reiterate what you said, maybe in slightly different words, is I think the perception about this Texas A&M team is that they are all defense, no offense, and that this game is going to be closer maybe than we think it is because of the fact that people are down on A&M's offense. They don't think they've got a good offense, but you and the model both think that this Texas A&M offense is decent, maybe not as good as the defense, but still is good enough, better than the Oregon offense, that they are the much better team. And like you said, the model thinks there's even a realistic chance this gets out close to double digits, especially with late fouls potential to get there. But laying a short number like 3, just way too good to pass up here for us in a great play in a game in Las Vegas, which is always fun for the kids to go to a fun place like that when all of them are probably under 21, but whatever. We will move to Houston and Alabama, one of the best games of the night, even with all the Maui situation going on here. We're going to lay 3.5 with Houston, one of our top picks, very similar to the game we just talked about. There we thought A&M by 6, so we're laying 3 as an A grade. This one we've got Houston by 6.5, so we're going to lay 3.5 as an A grade. One of our top plays here for Tuesday night. Really, this boils down to, we know Houston has a great defense. We know Alabama has a great offense. Alabama's defense leaves a little bit to be desired. Jake, I'm curious your take on this. We haven't talked about it. First off, a battle of paces. I mean, look at that. Houston wants to go really slow, Alabama really fast. That should be really interesting. But aside from that, I've watched only a little bit of college basketball so far. I don't tend to watch more until later on. I'm watching a lot of college football right now, watching a little bit of hockey, so watching a little bit of college basketball. I've seen a handful of Alabama games, more than maybe any other team. And what I see from Alabama is a team that when things are going well, they can beat anybody in the country, and they look really, really good. But when things don't, they look very average. And if things aren't clicking for Alabama on offense, this Houston team is really good and could really dismantle them. And so to me, this is one of those where if Alabama plays up to their game, then this is going to be a dogfight. And it's going to be a close game, and we still got a chance to win at laying 3.5. But if things aren't going perfect for Alabama, this could get out of hand because when things just aren't clicking, they just look really human. Jake, what's your take on it?
Look, I've thought this a long time with Nate Oates. He's not great from behind. Like, he just doesn't come from behind very well. And that's part of the reason his offense is the way it is, and they shoot so many threes and they play so fast because he wants to make sure that they can really lean on that lead, because that doesn't work well when you're needing to be very efficient with your time and stuff at the end of the games, and where Houston is very slow and extremely efficient. Kevin Simpson has that team absolutely humming right now. I know they lost to Auburn at that weird game, but I think Auburn is a little more talented than everybody thought, so they're not showing it tonight against Iowa State, but that's different issue. But this Houston team doesn't turn the ball over, so I'm not sure with the way Alabama is shooting as a team right now, like around 30-ish% from 3. I'm not sure where their offense comes from because they're not going to turn the ball over. They're not even Alabama's not that great at forcing the turnovers this year. Houston's actually one of the best 3-point shooting teams out there. They just don't shoot a ton of them. I mean, Cryer is killing it. Uzan, he's absolutely lighting it up. And I mean, the whole team is so athletic. And a big part of Alabama's issue is Grant Nelson's getting exposed on the defensive end. if you watch the Purdue Alabama game, you saw anytime Grant Nelson was the big guy on the floor when Cliff was out, they just immediately went to whoever he was guarding, posted him up, and the guy stood no chance. And now there's going to be very easy for Houston to do that because Houston has tons of guys that can just back him down and do whatever they need to score. And he's not going to put up much of a defense. And I think Cliff is going to be in foul trouble here. I just see Houston really taking care of business.
Another game that is in Las Vegas, again, we're laying 3.5 with this. We always talk about this, though. Make sure you are shopping around. If you can get a number like 3, 3 is a good number in college, but 2 and 3 are fairly important. You don't see a lot. It does happen. You don't see a lot of teams win by 1 in college basketball. Typically, the end of the game situations play out such that 1 is a very uncommon number to win by. Obviously, you can't win by 0. We go to overtime at that point. 2 and 3 are fairly key there at that point. So if you can get a 3, shop around, find that if the number goes up, we always talk about, we never know where the number's going to go. If it goes up 3.5, better than 4, right? All these half points here offer some pretty big edges in probability, or always find a -105 or a -110 instead of a -115. Always shop around at multiple books in your portfolio. If you don't have an account there yet, BetUS is a great book to have in your portfolio. We thank them for helping us keep the lights on. If you want to help us keep the lights on, a great way to do that is support us over on Dub Club. The picks only package, only $19.99 per month, gives you all the picks that we make. The top plays are denoted as such. You get a ton of plays here in college football. We got over 40 of them already for this week. We'll give out several mini college basketball plays, so a ton of other things you can get there, including some discount there for your first month if you want to sign up with the link in the show description. Check that out. Our last pick, Rutgers Notre Dame. Again, after this, we will discuss the big game of the night, the Kansas Duke game, but we're going to go to 10:30 p.m. Eastern, a late game. Rutgers Notre Dame, both teams 4-1 on the season. We aren't going to take a side right now. It is right around to pick them. We think it should be right around to pick them, as these two teams are very evenly matched. But instead, we're going to go over 146.5 with an A grade play, as the model thinks 152.5. Notre Dame doesn't play fast whatsoever, but Rutgers does have an above average pace. And on top of that, both of these offenses are better than both of these defenses, which is something that's uncharacteristic for both these schools. Jake, I think that's why there's value on this overs. I think there's still this perception that both of these teams are still defensive-oriented programs, but both of them have shown better offense here than defense. And so we're going to go over 146.5. Jake, what you got for us?
Yeah, I think the defensive issue that you see with younger teams is happening with Rutgers. I mean, they just dropped that game to Kennesaw State. We're giving up 79 points.
Another game we had an A grade play on Kennesaw State, which was also a no doubter, a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is like you've got 3 very, very good freshmen playing for Rutgers, like 2 that are like in the elite level, and the big guy, Somerville, is very, very good as well. But Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, very incredible, fun to watch. This has got a ton of superstar power with those 2, and then Marcus Burton on Notre Dame. I've been a huge fan of his. I mean, 5'11" point guard that just stepped into the ACC and just dominated and was the best player on Notre Dame's team from probably the second half of the year, his freshman year, all the way through. It's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of points. You got very efficient offenses. Both teams actually just dropped to team bye week games. You would really think like Elon for Notre Dame, where Notre Dame just gave up 84 points. Then Kennesaw State for Rutgers. Defense is just non-existent really on this. I don't think sideline's low enough on their defense. I've not been impressed. The good part is the offenses are very good. Neither turn the ball over a lot. The defense is really going to force them to, and both shoot the ball from deep well. I think we're going to get a ton of points early. I think the pace is going to lean towards Rutgers, and let Marcus Burton duel. It's going to be fun watching him if it's Dylan Harper, Jermichael that's guarding him, because Burton's 5'11", and I think the shortest guy on Rutgers is like 6'4". So it's going to be interesting to see who matches up with him and how Burton does.
Another game in Las Vegas. We're living there for this show. Jake, it seems a little bit unfair to me to put Rutgers and Notre Dame to an East Coast school and Rutgers, and a school that wants to be an East Coast school and Notre Dame, and it is also in the Eastern time zone. Even if it shouldn't be, because the state of Indiana should be in Central time zone, but whatever, playing this late. But here we are in a game where, like you said, the defenses have really struggled. These two teams haven't met in a long time, except for one game in 2022, which also went over that total. And these two teams have been going over this season, I believe, something to the effect of like 7-3 to the over combined. And so we think, again, that even the model having a hard time kind of catching up, and we think it's adjusting fairly well, but maybe the book's even slower to catch up, / the perception of these schools, that what we saw these last games for these teams isn't necessarily just a one-off. Like, these teams have defensive issues, and so maybe not the best quality basketball if you like the fundamentals, but we think there should be a decent number of points. We'll wrap up, of course, Kansas Duke, again, a game that we think is priced fairly well. Duke is a 2.5 point favorite right now. The model makes it 1.5. So, I mean, we are right in lockstep there. The total, maybe a slightly into the over, but as you know, viewer, if you've been with us for any time, we talk about a lot of these bigger schools playing, and the bigger schools we tend to lean over and the smaller schools we tend to lean under. And that's not always the case, but the default type position. And we think maybe lean over, but not like the edges we've had before on some of these games. And so not really a help from the model, but definitely a huge game. Jake, if you have to advise the better on that, what is your take, or what's your outlook? How do you see that game playing out?
I see this as Duke money line. I think is the route to go here. I wouldn't lay points with them as long as that the odds you're getting are reasonable. I don't think I'm going to go like minus 300 or minus 250 or something like that. But like anything below that, I'd probably lean that way, just because Duke's defense is highly underrated, and I think Kansas offense is overrated. I think both these teams, in terms of the AP poll, are very overrated and living off their names right now. Because, I mean, even that last game of Arizona Duke, Cooper Flagg was, I think he was leading scorer, but he was extremely inefficient. I think he had 24 points on 22 shots. That's not good. And Concanipple, he disappears. Proctor's, who knows if he's going to show up or not from game to game. Kansas, I really don't like. I think they're a talented team. I think they're a very talented team. I don't like how their pieces work together. Because Hunter Dickinson has to play slow because he doesn't move that well speed-wise. And, I mean, he can stretch the floor a little bit, but that doesn't seem like Bill Self wants him to, because he's got 6 attempts on the year. But that also kills the benefit of having Flory Beninga on the floor. So you definitely can't play two of your better players on the floor at the same time, especially Hunter Dickinson struggles with defense. So, like, you would like Flory to back it up. AJ Storr seems to be off. DeJuan Harris has never been a guy that's like here. Give me a bucket. He's a great point guard, but he's just not offensively aggressive enough, I think. And KJ Adams, who knows what you're going to get out of him from game to game. And Duke, I don't know. I just trust Duke's defense. Shire seems to really have that going. Flagg is a very unselfish guy. The way he plays, he really plays the game, not just being the better athlete and 6'9". And I trust the guys they have coming off the bench. Brown out of Syracuse, very good defensive player. Mark Gillis from Purdue was a defensive stopper for them. So they've got the guys all throughout the lineup. Just trust Duke's defense more than I trust anything on Kansas.
You've got Duke now eking out to 3. In some places, I'm seeing a 3.5 point spread. So they are taking on a little bit of the money. This opened on the money line at minus 145. Right now, I see the best price you can get on is minus 160. So it sounds like that would be kind of the way that you would go with this. I know you've talked in the past about being a little bit leery on this Kansas team. We've talked about them being one maybe that is going to come together. They've got the talent, but can they? It'll be more of a later on the season, can they get it together type thing. And we didn't talk about it then, but Oregon, the same thing. You talk about Dana Altman, has been a guy who's notoriously kind of said, we're going to experiment some things and figure it out by the time we get to conference, right? And that might be what Kansas has to do. Another game in Las Vegas, this one at the T-Mobile Arena, which is where the Golden Knights play. And of course, the game after it is Furman in Seattle. So maybe not quite as big of a game, Jake, not quite as much intrigue.
Great follow-up.
A great follow-up game. The other games, we've covered 3 of the 4 games. The other one, San Diego State and Creighton in the at the MGM Grand Arena there in Las Vegas. So a lot happening there. They've even got a game down in Henderson, I believe, tomorrow as well. So a lot of good basketball in the Las Vegas area. If Jake, if you had to choose, would you want a ticket to all 4 games at MGM, or would you want a ticket to Duke, Kansas? Which one would you choose?
Man,
Because the price might be the same, honestly, to get tickets for 4 games of those versus Duke Kansas, which is going to be a very hot ticket.
I think you can catch a single Duke game sometime later on, because they play all over. I think I'll do all the 4 just at the MGM and just live there for a minute.
All right.
That's kind of my favorite thing to do is buy the whole book of tickets and never leave my seat unless they force me out.
Well, there you go. So if someone has an extra ticket to those 4 games, Jake will fly out there tomorrow and watch all 4 games with you at the MGM. Yeah. One last question for you, Jake, just because there are so many fantastic locations. I'm going to list off the tournament places, and I want you to tell me, of all the places you could watch a basketball tournament, where would you pick? Because right now, just tomorrow alone, you've got options in Grand Cayman, the Cayman Islands. It's in Georgia. So you've got the Cayman Islands, you've got Fort Myers, you've got Daytona Beach, you've got Las Vegas, you've got Maui, you've got Riviera Maya, and there's actually 6 games, I believe, in that one. Of all those locations, which one are you choosing to go to? Ignore the quality of the game. Just say, like, if I could go to one place as a fan and vacation there watching basketball, which one are you choosing?
Maui, just because that tournament always seems to put on a show. Like, you got an overtime game out of UConn and Memphis, which 9 times out of 10 you're not going to have. Normally that's going to be UConn win.
Right.
You've got Iowa State kicking the tail out of, well, not anymore. It was kicking the tail out of Auburn, and now
it's the fun part about us recording while the games are happening, because it's like changing as
yeah, it's a 5-point game, no 4-point game. But so, like, these games just put on a show, and who knows what you're going to get out of North Carolina, and I don't know who they're playing. But it's just
a late game.
Yeah, that tournament just always seems to have something special, and it typically does pretty well. From, like, whoever wins that does fairly well. Like, normally that is a good quality or good foreshadowing for how you do in the tournament is how you do in Maui. And so that's just, and plus it's Hawaii. Like,
it's Hawaii,
get away from the cold and just on just the islands. And
I mean, so many of those, none of those places are in the cold, though. So to be fair, they all have that benefit. I've never been out to Hawaii. It's on the bucket list. Yeah, and Maui supposedly is beautiful. We have a friend there right now, actually, a friend of the show who was on some of the very initial old school college football podcast. If you're around for the OGs, like 4 or 5 years ago, is out there right now and has gone to Maui. It does seem like a lot of fun. I think I'd choose the Cayman Islands. It just seems like a fun place to go. I've heard good things. The water's nice and clear, but you have so many places there that you can go to, and all these kids are getting just the time of their lives, I'm sure, getting to play in some of these really fun locations. I've been to Riviera Maya multiple times, and it's always beautiful down there, especially this time of year. It's lovely weather. So even the weaker tournaments, even a place like Fort Myers or something like that, still great to be at this time of year. No complaints.
Yeah. I went a couple of years ago. I went to the Mohegan Sun one, the Cheez-It one, and they had Purdue, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Villanova, and I think half those teams went to the Final Four this year, and it was incredible. And the best part about these tournaments, if you ever go to one in live, is for the majority it's tiny gyms. So it's like watching these almost pretty much next to NBA level talent professionals playing a high school gym, and it's so much fun.
And we've seen that some of these playing like ballrooms and having issues with shot clocks and all these different things because
somebody hit the ceiling on a last second shot. I think it was a Virginia Tennessee game when they were playing out there in wherever they were playing.
That is not surprising.
Bahamas.
Yeah, that is not surprising because some of these places are absolutely ridiculous. And like we got Duke and Kansas playing in a neutral site, but they're playing in an actual like arena that is doesn't house an NBA team, but could, right? Since they have a pro hockey team there, and there will be 18,000 people there or whatever. So a lot of great college basketball this week. We'll be back this week later with more shows. Jake, parting words before we get back into more college basketball tonight, and then more all day tomorrow.
Like Doug Glove, you saw it. That the reason to be in there is those honorable mentions that really carried through the weekend and really turned it from losing one to win win 9 units just on that. So 5 units in your pocket even after eating the losses on the top plays. Because sometimes we're not the best at picking the winners out of what Sideline gives us, and Sideline is on fire this weekend with everything right now. It's just crazy.
And college football we talk about all year was fantastic this weekend. NFL was fantastic yesterday. So we've just had a great weekend. Everybody who was there, has paid paid for their yearly
Yeah.
subscription just last weekend alone.
Yeah.
And then it's just all great with all the other great weekends we continue to have. So again, check us out on Dub Club. If you have not yet, again, if nothing else, just that picks only package. Again, we appreciate your support. If you help us to stay in business, we appreciate BetUS and their support as well. We appreciate you watching this show. And we always wish you the best of luck and remind you that you can eat your betting money, but please do not bet your eating money.